Hi, my name is Alex with the Creech Crew, and I'm here with Maria and Christina. How did Atlantic Coast Title and Escrow become a company?
All right, so I started Atlantic Coast Title in 2018. Luckily, business took off, so I brought Christina on in 2020. So we've been partners ever since. Business is crazy and it's busy, and it's just been amazing to work with one of my best friends. And yeah, we love Atlantic Coast Title. We're super proud of it, and we're excited to meet everybody and tell you guys a little bit about us.
Thank you for that, Maria. And so how does a title company help with a home closing?
So I think what a lot of people don't realize is that we wear many hats. So obviously we do the things that people are more familiar with as far as running the title search, helping everyone get to closing, scheduling the closing, making sure title's clear. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes we wear the hat of a mediator or an investigator when we're trying to hunt down the separated spouse who needs to sign the deed.
So we do the title searches, we make sure the municipal lien searches are done. We order surveys if we need to, we review surveys, we correct any documents that need to be corrected, we draft all legal documents, we facilitate the closings, we schedule the closings, we hold everybody's hands and helps everyone get to the finish line.
And at the end, like I said, we're handling all of the funds. So we're making sure everyone gets paid. We're making sure the mortgages are paid off, the seller receives their proceeds, and so on.
Yeah, excellent. I remember my wife and I, we had a deal where we had to get sod replaced for the home before the HOA was requiring it before it closed. After we talked to all parties, we were going to get the sod done after closing because it was too close to the timeline. And so you guys, as title, were able to hold the funds to pay for the sod until after the job was completed.
Yeah.
But because you did that, you were able to help us get to the closing table on our closing date and then pay for the sod job after the closing date.
Yeah, every transaction is different. So not every single closing is going to fit into the perfect little circle that we would all like for it to be. And in that instance, yes, it was something as simple as there's 5 pieces of sod that are dead and next to this driveway, and the seller, let's just say, doesn't have the proceeds to do it before closing, or we didn't have the time. So luckily we have the flexibility and able to do that, and that's something that's we think is great with us being a smaller title company, as being the owners and being the attorneys that are running it, is that we have the ability to say, yes, we can do that, instead of having to run things up a chain and have to hear, he said no, she said no. We're just, usually our answer is yes, we can do it.
And we answer it on the spot.
Yeah. Yes, you guys are fast. We always appreciate that. Now, Maria, earlier you talked about a municipal lien search, and that actually is one of my questions I wanted to touch on. When buyers, when they look through the purchase and sale agreement, they see title search as a box that they have to check for what they're going to pay for, and then right above that is municipal lien search as a box they have to check. A lot of our customers ask us what's the difference between those, and at times I struggle with that answer. Can we get a clear answer on the difference between those two?
Yes, for sure. So title search is going to look back in the chain of title. It's also going to do a name search on all the parties involved. Just going to make sure that the seller doesn't have a federal tax lien on the home, that kind of thing. It's going to make sure there's not any wild deeds, or that the person that's selling this house is actually the person that we have on the contract that is selling the house. Yeah. We have had that happen before. Oh, wow. So that's the biggest thing with the title search. Municipal lien search, they search things county-wise, municipality-wise. So they're
like
going to
open permits.
Open permits, any code violations, any liens with the city utilities. So let's say, like in one of our counties, in Clay County, the water bill and that kind of stuff is billed through the city. And so that's usually a lien on the property every single month until it's paid. So that's not something that would technically be recorded in the public record, but it's something that comes back in municipal lien search. So while they're not as important as a title search, they still should be ran. That way your buyer is fully protected when they take over that house. They know exactly what they're taking over. Because sometimes there's a permit from 15 years ago that was never closed out, that, this is 3 sellers ago. And so, but it's still open. And at the end of the day, they usually can easily go away, but usually someone does have to pay a small fee. So you just want to make sure that your buyers are protected and they're not the ones actually paying that fee.
Okay.
So it covers
a even hold up closing?
Sometimes, usually, yes, it can at the end of the day, but usually they don't. Usually there's simple things that we're able to fix.
Now this is an optional fee and service that the buyers can do. Now it's because it's optional, and I imagine it's probably really expensive for municipal lien search.
Not generally. So it usually runs between $85 and $185. Okay. Depending on the county.
Yeah, and typically the seller pays for it.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Oh, and the seller pays for it.
Yeah, typically in our surrounding counties, the seller covers the majority of costs. Everything obviously is contractual, so what that means is that every single deal could be negotiated differently. typically 98% of the deals that we close and that we see are usually just the standard closing costs on both sides. So typically the seller does pay for the municipal lien search and the title search, but it's not every single time, but typically the seller does. So with your buyers, whenever you're submitting that offer, always, keep it on the seller side if you can. Obviously not every single seller is going to be willing to pay for it, but the majority of them are.
Okay.
So
thank you for that. So what are some of the most common issues you see come up?
Personally, I think that we see a lot of liens or judgments, things, surprises that pop up on the commitment when we run the title search, things that the sellers may not have disclosed to the agent or may not disclosed to us, that we then have to reach out to them to make sure we get more information and we get that closed out. And then also surveys.
Yeah, so you see a lot of time, people fight us a lot on surveys. Obviously, we want to make sure the whole point of this whole conversation is that we want to make sure that whenever this closing happens, that everything is free and clear. This house is good to go, this property is good to go, and a part of that is the survey, making sure that we're looking at it, everything is accurate. The seller has usually provided us with a survey that they've had before, that they've had done before, that they're basically recertifying, stating nothing has changed. It is common that the seller will forget that they moved a fence or added a fence or put a concrete pad over an easement in the back, that kind of stuff, extended the driveway, just things that are simple and that they do, in their defense, usually do forget because they're looking at a survey and it's not their job, it's our job. So they're looking at a survey and they're like, oh yeah, this looks accurate, but then we have to look at it and sometimes we'll even pull up a listing photo and be like, there's a pool. There's not a pool on this survey. So every now and then, that is one of the biggest things that we have to do because they're not crazy expensive, but they are expensive. They're usually between $350 and they can go up to a couple $1,000s depending on how big the property is. So we get that. We always try to recertify if we can, but that definitely is something that we deal with a lot is surveys. So always prep your sellers and let them know, hey, there's a possibility that you may have to purchase a new survey. That way they're just fully aware of it in the beginning.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yes.
And we were just talking about this the other day, and then also be careful because we had a situation where a listing agent asked their sellers to make a change to the property thinking that it would make it more desirable for buyers, and because she had them add a concrete pad, that then required them to get a new survey, and this particular survey was $2,500 because the size of the property, and so you just always have to be very careful. Yeah.
So that brings up a really good point. What is something that you ladies wish more real estate agents would know, or what is something that you wish that they knew that could either help them with title or help you on your side of title?
I think my biggest thing is just talking to your people.
Yeah.
And as we're all new at one point. We're all new when we first start. And so we all have to learn things as we go. And so it's just taking the things that you've learned in your past transactions and applying them to the next ones. As in finding out the people's legal name, finding out if they're legally married.
Yes, marital status is a big one.
We deal with that on at least
Yeah.
50 to 60% of contracts where people just think that even though they're married, they haven't talked to their spouse in a couple of years, so they can put that they're single. Like, no, that's not how it works with our homestead laws here.
It's not how Florida sees it.
No, it's not how Florida sees it. So it just makes things a little messy by the time it gets to us, but really it's just putting together a solid contract. Like, we have no problem helping our agents figure things out once we get it. But at the end of the day, by the time your clients get to us, we want everything to go seamless. You guys want everything to go seamless. They've made it this far. They finally got a contract. We want it to be easy for them. So having to call them and ask them these questions just kind of brings up things where they're like, why wasn't this asked before? And it just makes everybody kind of think like, why is this happening? And so when everything is handled in the very beginning, from start to finish, by the time it gets to us, it just makes everybody look better. So that's our biggest thing, and that's where we try and educate our real estate agents that close with us the most. Just things like that, things to look out for on contracts and have, and just the questions to ask, so that we're all fully informed once it gets to that contract. That way, everything ends and closes smoothly.
Yeah, and Maria and I love it when our agents, a lot of times they call us before the listing goes live and say, hey, I have a listing, can you go ahead and run a title search? Or we think it's going to be a probate issue, if it's a family home, things like that. So we can kind of get ahead of it before it gets to the contract. That way, if they need help with the verbiage on the contract, if it's a probate or something like that, or under the name of an estate, we're able to help with those things.
What was one of your harder or more complex deals that you guys found a solution to?
You want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. I had a property in Atlantic Beach, very valuable piece of property, obviously, and unfortunately, the father had passed away. His wife had already predeceased him, and the family was not in agreement as far as coming together and how they wanted to list it, sell it. But thankfully, we were all able to come together through many hours of mediation among the many siblings. We were able to, get it sold, and everyone was happy at the end of the day. So we see a lot of probate or I guess like complex family situations sometimes that we have to work through.
And when you say mediation, was that on your behalf?
Yes. So sometimes you have to play social worker.
Pro bono, I suppose.
Yes. But whatever gets the deal to the closing table, however we can help our agents. That's what we're here to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the biggest things that we also help with a lot is we're a military town. We have a couple military bases here. A lot of the real estate agents that we close with specialize in military buyers. So we deal with a lot of people in other countries and in other faraway states and remote signings and that such. So the biggest thing is we've pretty much at this point figured out how to get anybody signed.
Yes.
We're now in our 6-year business, and we've seen, obviously I haven't seen it all, but we've seen a lot of it. And so we've had, I found out the day before that one spouse is in one country and one spouse is in Indiana. So that kind of stuff. So it's just being able to get a POA done on the fly, get it approved, get someone signed, figure out how to extend closing. We've had it before where there's simultaneous closing, let's say 4 closings back to back, all based on one, and then, that person is MIA or something like that. So it's just, again, it all comes down to communication and knowing everything up front and being prepared and having the resources to get stuff done.
Right.
So,
and the mindset to want to get stuff done.
Yes.
We hear about title companies all the time where they're not willing to schedule the mobile signing or get it set up. It's it's not their problem.
Yeah.
Where we'll do anything to make sure that we find the person, we get the signatures, and everybody's.
While the real estate agents bring the transaction to us, we work as a team with our real estate agents. It's important to us. We understand how hard everyone worked to get that closing to us. So it's our job to get it closed. So it's not something that we're not ever gonna be too busy, or it's not ever gonna be something where we don't do that.
Right.
It's our job to get it closed.
Yeah, we don't say no to anything.
Yeah.
Us real estate agents appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you touched on other title companies. That leads to my next question. What distinguishes a good title company from a mediocre one?
So many things. I think communication is number one.
Yeah.
You have to communicate. We're quick to respond. We will never let an email just sit in our inbox for a day, or when the lender gets out to us, we're going to immediately balance with them so that we get that final cash to close them out to that buyer. I think it's just communication and working with all parties and making sure, like Maria said, that we are ahead of everything, so that hopefully there are no surprises at the end.
It's communication for sure, and just the desire to want to work with these people again. We understand obviously that the buyers and sellers are the ones that are passing through our offices, but it's not lost on us that the real estate agents are the ones that are getting them to us. And so it's our job to make sure everything goes smoothly, and some title companies just don't care. Because, it's not their company, or, they just don't have a vested interest in anything, so they just let things go. But either way, it's everything's important to us. We make sure that every single deal, if it can, obviously, legally, get through the finish line, that it gets through the finish line. But we see a lot and we hear a lot of other title companies that just make things a little difficult for people. And why won't they help do a post-occupancy agreement, or draft a POA, or, send out a mobile notary, or handle a remote online closing?
Or they're and they're sloppy at the end of the closing. There's a lot of steps that we have to take, such as, mailing out the homeowner's insurance check to make sure they have homeowner's insurance, or recording the deed. And we hear stories where title companies will forget to do this.
Yes.
And it blows our mind.
Yes. We had one of our OG agents, the reason that we got their business is because the title company they had used for years forgot to make a mortgage payoff. So, obviously accidents happen, everyone's human, but, to me, that's just unfathomable.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
How do you not notice that one?
But we're happy it happens, because this is how we get our agents. We keep them. Yeah, because they see the value and the difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And last question here. What are some common misconceptions about title companies or the industry as a whole?
I think we touched on it earlier, where I think people, again, not every title company is ran by attorneys. Obviously we are, and we're proud of that, but they think that it's just paper pushing and that we're just stuffy and boring. We're just looking at legal documents all day. And I think what we touched on earlier is we really played a lot of roles throughout the closing process.
Agents don't realize how important the title company is, because they think, okay, yeah, they're going to help us get it closed, and they're just doing all the paperwork and all these documents, but we're the last stop.
Yeah.
So this is the last thing that your clients are going to remember. Like, yes, they're going to remember you guys doing the walkthrough and, you know, you giving them the keys and everything, but this last process, the loan process is stressful. It's not fun. So title being able to make everything concise and easy and a little bit fun, it just kind of helps seal the deal at the end. Makes buyer, once they've signed everything, feel confident and feel good about the decision that they've made. They just spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a little stressful. So it just helps to have someone there that can explain everything to them and make it calmly and make them feel good about their decision and let them know that, hey, if you have any questions, no question is a silly question. You can ask us whatever you guys want. It just kind of helps. And I just think that some real estate agents don't realize how important that is to have a title company on your team, because we give to ours and they give back to us, and that's how we see it.
Yeah.
People that use other title companies that, you know, just kind of send them deals and don't realize that it's something that, you know, everyone should work together. I feel like they aren't as successful as real estate agents that have, you know, people holding their hands and doing it all with them.
We definitely take pride in our closings. So we break down homestead, how to apply, we go over portability. We always hear that title companies don't explain what portability is, let alone just mention it. And it can save the buyers a lot of money, and sellers, when they go to purchase their next home. I mean, it's a huge savings on the property tax bill, so why wouldn't we bring that up?
Yeah.
So, among, of course, many other things, such as, you know, when is your first payment due? Your HOA assessments, those are separate. They're not included in your escrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just all of those things that first-time home buyers just get so overwhelmed by. It's very simple, so you just got to break it down and educate them. Yeah.
Well, Christina and Maria, I really appreciate the time today. So this has been Christina and Maria from Atlantic Coast Title and Escrow, and I'm Alex Creech, closing deals and heels, .. and cleats. See you next time.